We're back to the Neil Haley Show on the Total Celebrity segment. And it's interesting when we talk about filmmaking and all these different things. I am just getting so hooked by shows on Netflix, and I think it's because of guys like this professor. Because what we're seeing is so much talent out there. Because there's so many opportunities for filmmakers. There's opportunities for documentaries. There's opportunities in film and the television world. And it's because of guys like this guy that's on the line. Because, in my opinion, if the newest talents come through, someone like this guy. So I'm excited to welcome Dean of Dodge College of Fine Arts at Chapman University, Bob Bassett. Bob, thanks for calling. How are you?
My pleasure.
Now, so as you were kind of talking, I think the perfect way to just jump into this, and then I'll go into different questions, is the Duffer Brothers, because they attended this college and you saw the talent. Again, I'm a huge Stranger Things fan, and I think almost anyone listening to this program is. But again, they came out of nowhere in certain ways. But you saw the talent, didn't you, Bob? Not nowhere, but you know what I mean.
Well,
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. They developed it at Chapman, and they graduated in 2006. So, as you would expect, it takes a while before you get your shot. But I remember we do a screening at the Directors Guild every year. And at that screening was a good friend, Tony Sella, who runs Fox Marketing. He ran up after the screening and said, "Who are those guys? I got to meet them." And he introduced him. Short story is he introduced him to Fox Atomic. Nothing happened there. They then got a $12 million gig, which is unheard of, at Warner Brothers to make a film, which they made. And there was a change of regime, and so the film it was called Hidden, and it got shelved. It's out there on the internet, but it didn't get theatrical. Then they went back east and worked with M. Night Shyamalan on Wayward Pines, both writing and directing in the showrunner's room. And then they pitched their idea to Ted Sarandos at Netflix, and the rest is history. And I remember having dinner with Ted Sarandos at Telluride, where one of his films was screening, and he said, "I just picked up this amazing thing from two of your students. We'll see how it goes." Well, I think the second season had 14 million viewers. It was just astonishing. In 3 days, 14 million people saw that or they binge watched the whole thing. So anyway, I'm proud of them. We have other filmmakers that have been developed, like Justin Simeon, who did, first of all, the feature film, Dear White People, then again, the series on Netflix, Dear White People. Justin is so smart and so kind. And, it's just a pleasure for me. I mean, it's almost like every week now, one of my students writes. I just got an email from Patrick Don Vito, who said, by the way, did you know I edited Green Book? And Green Book's an amazing film. And he's been working with Peter Farrelly practically since he graduated back in 91. So it's a great pleasure for me to see these talented kids who came to Chapman, who collaborated with other talented kids. And why go to film school? Because there's no shortage of people saying, "Oh, well, you don't need to go to film school." I suppose that was kind of kicked off by Tarantino and others. And it may not be for everybody, but you certainly have a built-in set of collaborators who are being trained, mentored by talented faculty. And so if nothing else, it'll speed up your career if you have talent.
It definitely will speed up your career and have the opportunities, but I think it's just understanding film. I mean, I've interviewed a lot of people or look at specific talent that's out there, and they have gone to film school, and they have learned a lot of the great things. You talk about Tarantino maybe poo-pooing it. There are lots of people that have gone to film school and utilized those skill sets a lot, and then also other actors that decide, okay, I want to learn to go behind the screen. So I'm going to go back and do some film studying and things like that. So it's important, Bob, to understand how it works, right? When looking at the best directors, producers, and everybody, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Right. I totally agree. And, another thing about often people say, well, I want to be a director. And maybe they'll end up being a director. But maybe that's really not what they're good at. And so film school is a place where you find that voice inside you, which I think is basically what college does to anybody in any discipline. But you're forced, at least in our environment, to do everything. So you have to be a PA, you have to be a line manager, you have to be an editor, you have to be a production designer, you have to do all those things. But doing all those things helps you narrow down the one thing that you discover you're really good at. And, it takes a while. It takes a few years of that to really discover that thing that gets you so passionate, gets you excited about getting up in the morning. And then there's another thing. Like I was a literature philosophy major in school. That was back in the 60s. There were very few film schools. If you want to make a film, you needed very expensive equipment to make it. And, today, if I went to school, I'd probably be a film major, I'm sure. But the thing I remember, and this circles back to what you just said about understanding film, is that, of course, I wanted to write the great American novel. And so it's like, okay, well, keep reading the best that's been thought and the best that's been expressed, and you will discover something new to add to that. And I think that's what film schools do. You watch films. So what do you do in a film school? You do three things. You watch films, you talk about films, you make films. And we have this wonderful theater, Dolby Atmos, the whole 9 yards, 500-seat theater. And our kids, we screen movies every night and talk about them. And the kids make films every weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's an exciting environment, very active, bring down a lot of guests from Hollywood that share their experience. And that's another thing I think is so crucial about understanding film. I mean, it's not like writing a novel. It's not like painting a picture. Those things you can do essentially alone. But filmmaking is entirely collaborative. And so you've got to understand the dynamics and how to work with people. And you've got to understand there's a good idea. I mean, this is basic leadership, but you have to understand a good idea can come from anywhere. The grip could be over there watching what's going on for 6 hours and sidle over to the director and say, hey, did you think about this? And it could be the best idea in the movie, and it happens. It happens in, feature films, and it happens on student films. So anyway.
No, it's a great point. I mean, I think it's so cool to learn the ins and outs, and you think that all those people need this opportunity. And then it's, again, Bob, right place, right time, and being willing to pay your dues. Because once you finish film school, if you say, hey, I don't want to do the lower end things to get to where I am, that means that times you've given up. You don't want to starve. You don't want to go after your dream. And that's all that this business is about, is dreaming, right? And making it a reality of the percent that do make it, just like the NFL, NBA, any of the other places to become famous.
Yeah. I mean, filmmaking is very odd. It's not like, say you want to be an attorney, say you want to be a physician, say you want to be a CEO of a company. I mean, there's paths to that, but there's no path to being a filmmaker other than making films. And so, I'm always very proud when we have so many people working in the business, a lot of very high-level executives send their kids to our school. And I hear back, we love Chapman students because they're not entitled. They understand how it works. You just get your foot in the door and you work hard, and you're going to work for somebody else to begin with. And the thing you want to do is make that person feel things are better when you're around than when you're not. And you start your networking right from that point. And then you stay in touch with people. And we have 1,500 people in our school 1,500 students. And so there are tremendous networking possibilities. For sure, some of their classmates are going to be successful in the business, possibly because their parents are going to give them a head start, but possibly just because they have raw talent. And a lot of it, as you just said, is luck. You just are in the right place at the right time, and you get your opportunity. And so that's the whole objective, is once that opportunity comes your way, understand it, make the absolute most of it.
And you never know. And then, like I said, and it's the process, and it's also you could make a lot of money, but probably you're not. And then you could decide to go another route in life, Bob, and decide, okay, I'm going to be an executive, and then you could make some money. But understanding the industry as a whole in film is so important, and that seems like that's your goal as dean, is to make sure it's a well-rounded education in film.
Right. So, to me, I say, well, I think lots of film programs teach the art and the craft of making a film. That's important. But we also teach the business of the business, and that's equally important. And look how things have changed. Look at the disruption that Netflix has caused.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
I mean, I'm fortunate. Ted Sarandos is on my advisory board. And, Ted is so smart. And I've watched him over the last, 5, 6, 7 years, totally transform things. And our students have to understand that. They have to understand, what the opportunities are these days. And they have to, and I said earlier that, our students serve on all parts of a set. And there's a reason for that.
Exactly.
Because when you do that, there's a reason for being a grip, a reason for being a gaffer, a reason for being a DP. Because then you start to see, well, how long does it take to light a scene? Well, how long does it take for catering? Because that helps you size a movie. That helps you make a budget. It tells you what it's going to cost. And so you can't just say, I'm going to be a director and let everybody else figure out everything else.
No, not at all.
You've got to, you've got to understand how every part works so that you're not spending too much money or too little money, or you have unrealistic expectations about what you can do with the money you have. And then, of course, if you have equity investors, which most films do, you've got to get the money back to them. So if you
that's an important part, Bob, is when you're making a film, regardless of the film, or it ends up being Netflix at one point in time, you need to be able to fund this. And it's becoming less expensive than it used to be, Bob. But again, part of your job as a filmmaker is to fundraise, to fund your projects.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm sure you teach that at the university as well. I mean, at the college, correct?
Yeah, it's a university. In our college, we're one of 10 colleges in the university, and we actually have our own feature film company, and it's called Chapman Filmed Entertainment. We've made 2 films. We just recently made a film this summer with the model is that alums typically make a film because students can't take 5 weeks off to make a film. But if we do it in the summer, then also students can participate. And, they see how a film goes together. They see exactly what everything costs. They wouldn't say I get the equity funding for the film. But it's like, okay, this is it. You've got this much money. And the films are usually in the $1 million to $2 million range. It's like, we have exactly this much money. You're not going to spend a penny more. So let's get inventive and apply what you've learned. And it's really
fantastic. Yes.
To see them.
It seems so exciting to me, Bob. And I love to talk to you again and also have any chance of possibilities of doing a segment and having some of your greatest alums on to talk about everything as well. Where's the best place we can connect with you, Bob? So people that want that dream, they want to be a filmmaker. And this is one reason you're on this show tonight is because you want to get the word out to people. Hey, we're always looking for new talented people, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I got to Chapman in 1981, and film education was very different at that time. I had parents coming and saying, looks of horror in their eyes, Susie, you'll never get a job, will you help me make her switch over to business? And today is the exact opposite. It's the exact opposite. I have parents pleading, willing to pay to get their kids into school. And the kids, and also the kids in the beginning were, creative, but maybe not the smartest kids. Today, our students could get into Harvard, Stanford, Yale, but those schools don't have production programs. So they come to Chapman.
Not at all.
And we have the best students in the universe. It's exciting. It's really exciting.
Okay, best place we can connect with you, Bob, learn more about you and the school. Where can we go?
Well, our website's a good place to go. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
www.chapman.edu. It'll take you to the Dodge College website. And we're out there online. I think we have a robust website and has all kinds of stuff on it. So that's a good place. Good place to start.
Well, Bob, you're a very interesting guy, and it's interesting stories you told, and you're really selling people on the fact of how important it is to go to film school. So Quentin Tarantino will have to kind of debate you sometime, Bob, about this, that it's important to go to film school. And I honestly believe they all need this because now it's not going to be the big features are going to make the money. The opportunities that come from Netflix changes everything, Bob, and all these streaming services and all these independent films. The business has changed, and going to this college is an important part in the step to make it to the big time and learn from the industry. And Bob, you're doing a tremendous job. Keep up the great work, and thanks for coming on the show.
Okay. Thank you very much. Pleasure talking to you.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. You're listening to Neil Haley's show, and we'll be back in just a moment. See ya. We're back to the Total Celebrity Show on the Total Education Network. Again, TotalTutor.net for more information. Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook, LinkedIn, Neil Haley, Instagram, Total Tutor, Pinterest, Neil Haley, and Google Plus, Neil Haley. And it's interesting, we get former Steelers, but also I have more than just when I think former Steeler with this guy, because listeners out there might not know I'm a huge Colorado Buffalo fan, and the teams that he played for were my favorite Colorado teams of all time because I used to live in Denver. So I'm a huge Bronco fan and Colorado Buffalo fan and Denver Nugget fan. So I'm excited to welcome the program former Pro Bowler, Super Steeler, in definitely my opinion, Chad Brown. Chad, thanks for calling. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How you doing?
I'm doing great, and I want to just jump right into the days when we were talking off air about going to the University of Colorado and how the team was mediocre at best, but you knew something special was going to happen with this team, didn't you?
I did. Growing up in Southern California, I was, obviously I played football out there, and I knew who the players who were very good the years before me, and Colorado came to California and had some success recruiting those guys, and I kind of knew that Coach McCartney was building something special out there in Colorado. So as difficult as it was for me to leave the States, to know I was going to be a part of building something special out there in Colorado, which is what we eventually did, won a national championship, 4 consecutive Big 8 titles during my time there. That was the reason why I left California, because I wanted to, be a part of building. So not go to some school that had this incredible track record of success, but go to a school where I could build something and be remembered as a special class of guys who came in, and that's what we were able to accomplish in Colorado.
Oh, you definitely were. And thinking about the story and thinking about the amazing story of the first year where Colorado really came on the map and you guys were rolling after that, winning, and the sadness of that year and the whole recruiting of LA players and stuff. Tell us that feeling, especially when you started winning. how it was, and then also the national stories that started happening, and Colorado finally on the map, for sure.
It was, there was obviously, a very interesting time. Our coach, his daughter, ends up being pregnant by one of the players who later, passes away from cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, so it was such interesting dynamics going on. But I give our coaches a lot of credit. They're able to keep us focused on what was going on the field. The passing the Sal's was something, that as a young guy, I think it was kind of a galvanizing thing for us, kind of coming together. And, everybody talks about football teams being families, but when you have something like that happens to one of your brothers, it kind of pulls you together as a family, pulls you tighter together. And we were able to use that incredibly, sad, tragic thing to, pull ourselves together, become a, more cohesive team. And, like I said, we went out there and able to get it done. So very fascinating time at the University of Colorado, without a doubt, but a very successful time on the football field.
Do you think that puts you guys on the map just because of the story of Coach McCartney and his daughter and the passing of Sal, meaning nationally Colorado went on the map, even though, PR at that time was a lot different, but it just became this story, and the story throughout the year that people started rooting for Colorado that didn't even know about Colorado at all, for sure.
Well, there were a couple of things. There was the Sports Illustrated article that came out, I think it was my freshman year, kind of relaying a lot of the off-the-field issues that, players had in Boulder. And, let's face it, Boulder wasn't really ready to, have all these players from around the country come into it. And so it was also, a growing-up period for the program, but also kind of growing up period for Boulder to deal with some of its, maybe racial issues in the past. So, again, a very, fascinating time. And for the public, as you're talking about, and people beginning to recognize the Colorado football program, you read a Sports Illustrated article, then you hear about the quarterback with cancer, then, again, the head coach's daughter's having that quarterback's child. Then we go out, we beat Oklahoma and Nebraska. So that, that was the reason, that time frame was the reason why folks began to recognize and hear about the University of Colorado and, the program we were putting together out there.
Your freshman year, you were hoping that we win that national championship, didn't you, Chad? That was such a special story year. You're like, you guys are so close, for sure.
Yeah, it's funny how it's tends to repeat itself over and over and over again, and that teams that are beginning to move up in the ranking, so to speak, regardless of the sport, regardless of the level of sport, sometimes they need to get to that stage or knock on the door a few times before they're actually able to go out there and get the win done. So that 1989 season, which we were undefeated, we lost Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl. But once we got into the Orange Bowl and was playing a team like Notre Dame, it became clear that they were at a different level than what we were as far as, mental toughness and makeup and that big game experience. We were so new to that stage. We weren't really able to go out there and get it done as well as they were. And, the next year we came back, so we beat Notre Dame the next year in the 1990 Orange Bowl and got the national championship. But, it's funny because both teams very talented, but one team just a much more mentally tougher, willing to lay it on the line team than the team before, which thought, we were good, and we were undefeated, but we weren't toughened up as you need to be to win a national championship.
So the second year, you win the national championship, and you had more of a role in your sophomore year, right, than your freshman year with the team.
Yeah, I had a couple of starts my freshman year, half the season. My sophomore season, I was a full-time starter and really played well in that 1990 championship game. I think I led the team in tackles, had a couple of pass breakups, caused the fumble, which we recovered, and then that fumble gave our offense really good field position. We went down and scored the game-winning touchdown on that drive based on my caused fumble. And the fumble I caused was against my eventual teammate in Seattle, Ricky Waters, and the guy who actually ended up being a really good friend of mine. And we still keep in touch to this day. Our kids are friends, and our wives are really good friends as well. But Ricky doesn't like me to talk about that very much.
Yeah, you bring up that story, and he was like, we're so close to a national championship. Yeah, definitely. So Chad, then 2 more years, you guys. As I'm trying to remember, isn't it funny? I was a huge fan at that time. I was younger then, and remembering completely, specifically those Colorado teams. The years you won the Big 8, it's just you stumbled a couple times to never get that shot again in your junior and senior year. Am I correct?
Yeah. We lost. The rest of the conference, we continued to win the conference, but other teams, pulled ahead of us nationally. We stubbed our toe a couple of times. In college football, if you stub your toe at the wrong point of the season, it'll really come back to hurt you. My senior year, we had a good year going. Then we went out to Nebraska and lost on a Halloween night. I think we lost like 45-3.
I remember that game still.
That was we decided to put Coy Detmer in the game at quarterback. He was a young freshman, ended up being a very good player for Colorado, and was a long-time backup in the NFL, but Coy just wasn't ready for what that Nebraska defense brought that night. And I think he, like I said, threw 5 first-half interceptions. It was an ugly night for the Buffalo. So, stubbing your toe a couple of times in college football and your chances for a national championship are essentially gone. Like I said, we won 4 consecutive Big 8 titles. I think in my 4 years there, I won something like 44 games or something. So, a tremendous run. But, the difference between winning a national championship and being somewhere in the top 10 or top 15 is really just one game in college football, and that razor's edge was sharpest and how you can try to maintain that for an entire season.
Definitely. So now you're ready to play in the NFL. And before the draft, did you have a team you wanted to play for? That's a good question to ask, especially being from California. Did you have any hopes of certain teams you wanted to play for going into the draft?
It's so funny because there's certain obviously historic franchises like the Pittsburgh Steelers, like the Green Bay Packers. Before a kid coming up in California, you don't grow up wanting to be a Steeler. You don't want to grow up and be a Packer until you walk in those doors. You realize how special of a place it is to play, and it's such a historic place to play. You can't help but have as a 21-year-old guy, thoughts of, Miami, or at the time the Rams were still in L.A. So, those were the thoughts going through your head. But there was also the reality of football, what teams were good, what teams weren't, and what teams played the style of defense that you thought you would be good at. And then, there's the other part of it is what teams are interested in you, what teams think you fit their system well. I flew out to meet with the Steelers before the draft, sat down and had dinner with Marvin Lewis. It was a great meeting. I really enjoyed Marv. But again, from a West Coast perspective, Pittsburgh was a completely different slice of life than what I was accustomed to. But in the end, it ended up being a complete perfect fit. I doubt I would have been able to play as long as I did in the NFL if it hadn't been for those, foundational years, those first couple of years in Pittsburgh, really learning about pro football, having some great teammates, guys like Rod Woodson and Greg Lloyd and guys like that who kind of teach you the NFL game.
Definitely, Chad, and having that experience of playing for that storied franchise. When you play for the Steelers, you stay a Steeler forever, even though you played for all these other teams. I probably surprised you by pushing the whole Buffalo thing, but that's me. I march to a different beat of drum because that's one of my favorite teams too. But really, always a Steeler. When people probably see you down the street when you visit Pittsburgh, they just remember your days of the Steelers, and it's just truly people in Pittsburgh live for this team, and I'd say that's probably about the Packers and a few other teams that it's constantly been that day since the Rooneys, for sure. And that's the excitement of playing, and it's almost like a college atmosphere, right, playing for the Steelers.
Well, you feel like you're part of, football royalty. I was a Seahawk. I was also a Patriot. Patriots have obviously had a lot of success, but I think folks in that New England area don't necessarily grow up like kids in Pittsburgh grow up, where as a kid they wore Steeler bibs. They slept on Steeler sheets. every Christmas they got some kind of Steeler paraphernalia. So it's a different experience, I think, as far as being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan than, I would say, outside of a couple other, kind of iconic franchises than any other team. The Jacksonville Jaguar fans or the Atlanta Falcon fans just don't have that same depth of love and the interwoven connection between the city and the team and the team and the city that the Pittsburgh Steelers have with the city of Pittsburgh. When I came back to the Steelers in 2006, in the 14th year of my career, I lived downtown in a little corporate apartment. So I would always walk around downtown, just to kind of see what was going on or whatever, grabbing some groceries. And, having left 10 years before to come back 10 years later and to see, at every single bus stop, there's always somebody in Pittsburgh Steelers gear.
Yes.
Whether it's it could be a woman in an umbrella, it could be a guy in a Steelers sideline jacket, it could be an older guy in a sweatshirt or a hat. There's always somebody in Steeler gear. There's always somebody in Steeler merchandise. It's a fascinating connection. I think it's just like I said earlier, just such a part of identity of the city that very few other NFL teams could ever even hope to have that kind of connection with their fans.
Now, it's interesting because I interviewed Levon Kirkland. I'm reminiscing and remembering things. It's funny how I'm able to do that. We look at the years that you went and played at Pittsburgh. Again, your last year, you had one more year, I think, right after the Super Bowl year. So you got to experience some huge success into one AFC championship game that you lost. That was the most disappointing thing in the world, to getting to the Super Bowl the following year. So those 2 years were unbelievable with the Steelers, weren't they? Because you really brought the Steelers back. I credit that 90s team for what 2000 did, in my opinion, meaning it brought back the Super Steelers, in my opinion. Just growing up, I remember the 90s team very well.
Well, it was a kind of a perfect storm for me to go to Pittsburgh at, a time when Dick LeBeau, Marvin Lewis, and Dom Capers and Bill Cowher are kind of, really starting to, focus and build up that zone blitz style of defense that was, had a number of different roles that I could fill. To be able to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers at the same time that, they bring in a Kevin Green. So I'm a pass rusher. I get to, work on the other side of this guy and watch what he does all the time. I get a chance to play with Greg Lloyd. In my mind, with the baddest man in football at that time, really taught me and got me to understand the physical, intimidating nature of football and how that's really Steeler football, and that's the way we're going to play football here. So to come in as a rookie and have that guy teach me that was amazing. At the same time, you mentioned the guy, Levon Kirkland. Levon was just a year ahead of me, so we were both kind of soaking up this experience together and really growing together. And Levon and I were inseparable in meetings and on the field. So, it literally, Marvin Lewis treated, Levon and I as one. If one had to stay extra for something, then both of us had to stay extra. Kevin and Greg were older guys. They got to go in and, not stay after practice, but Levon and I were out there with Marvin getting extra work done. So it was a really, kind of a perfect storm of events at the coaching staff, the players I got a chance to play with, and some lucky breaks along the way. And yeah, to your point, we were able to kind of bring the Steelers back and develop some of that consistency, that consistent playoff team always competing for the Super Bowl kind of mindset back to the Steelers.
And it's never left since then, in my opinion, for sure. I mean, 8-8 sit, and then they're back rolling again, winning again. So that's the nice thing. I mean, we don't see many 6-10, 4-12 years, and that's great. That would be kind of really boring in this city because this city would just shut down. But interesting when you talk about the linebackers you played with. Wow. I mean, just imagine a linebacking core like you guys. There's not many like this out there.
I think that linebacker core, according to NFL Films, was I think we're the 7th best linebacking group of all time. I think they had number one, that 70s group of Jack Ham and Lambert and those guys, was that earlier Steeler, linebacker group. But the style of defense, the 3-4 style of defense, particularly that zone blitz, was really a linebacker-centric defense. And there's been, once Kevin left and Jason Gilden steps up and he fills that role. So they've always got, guys coming in, Joey Porter over the last couple of years, or James Harrison. So there's always guys who can be featured in that defense and really, take advantage of that and play some, dominating physical defense in that style. And I was, very happy to be a part of that group. Like I said, if I hadn't come in to the Steelers at that time with that group, I doubt I would have been able to play 15 years. But those guys taught me the work ethic, the intensity, the physical nature, all that kind of stuff you need to last for a long time in the NFL.
So after that, Chad, you leave the Steelers as a free agent and go play for the Seattle Seahawks. And people don't remember that because, again, the Seahawks weren't that good at that time, and you had 2 Pro Bowls you earned. So you continued to play at a high level, but you kind of disappeared in a way. Kind of like it's funny. I was talking to Norm Johnson about, he went first the Seahawks. I always consider him a Steeler, but it's funny when you leave our team, we won't cheer for you, but we'll always consider the respect that, hey, you're a Steeler regardless. But your days of the Seahawks, so you still played at a pretty high level, and you got the end of your career with the Patriots. Did you guys win the year you played for the Patriots? I don't remember that for sure.
No. Life's always so funny sometimes. I left the Seahawks in 2004, ended up playing with the Patriots in 2005. Well, in 2005, I visited the Pittsburgh Steelers during the free agent times. I visited New England, and I live here in Denver. I spoke a lot to the Denver Broncos, and I had a chance to return back to the Seattle Seahawks. It's funny. I go to New England. They had just come off of back-to-back Super Bowls. We ended up losing to Denver in the playoffs here in Denver. The Steelers end up beating Denver in the championship game, and then they play the Seahawks in the Super Bowl and beat the Seahawks. So it's just kind of funny how life works out sometimes. I had a choice to go to, like I said, all 4 of those teams. Unfortunately, I suppose I chose wrong, although I really enjoyed my experience in New England. Bill Belichick is just such an amazing coach, and I learned a tremendous amount while I was there. But yeah, I missed that Super Bowl in 2005 just because, I wanted to be a Patriot instead of being a Steeler.
But so, as I look at this, you went back to the Steelers again. So you really played for some storied franchises. I can't believe you say the Seahawks are now because of where they are today. So you could say, hey, I played for winners. And it's nice to say, especially in your career and in college. So you knew about winning. So your career ends in football. What's life after football? Do you keep winning, Chad? That's the important thing in the game of life.
Absolutely. I've been so incredibly lucky in my entire playing career, going back to Pop Warner, when championships in Pop Warner. My high school team in California, we won 32 games in a row, back-to-back, championships as well there. National championship in Colorado. Played for the Steelers, played for the Patriots, played for the Seahawks. I was part of that 2007 Patriots team that was, the almost perfect season, ended up losing in the Super Bowl to the Giants. So lots of winning. And, at the same time, when you retire football, life's not over. You still got to go out there and, to your point, win some more. And that's what, I try to do. I try to take the discipline and the lessons of the game off the field and apply them, to my life now. And hopefully for the next 45 years, I'll be working these football lessons into real life.
And that's tremendous. And now, what are you currently doing, Chad?
Well, I've got a couple of companies that I run here in Colorado. I've got a shipping company. We have a couple of different branches of it right now. Ship Your Reptiles is one of our websites, and Ship Your Aquatics. We specialize in shipping things that you can't really show up at a, FedEx Kinko's and say, here, I want to ship this fish or this snake to my friends. So we facilitate animal shipping for hobbyists and business all over the U.S. Most weeks we do, somewhere between 500 and 750 next day airs a week for customers, whether, again, they're hobbyists or there's someone just relocating and moving across the country to get their animals across the country, or for breeding businesses both in the aquatics and the reptile world. It's a fun job, keeps us on our toes. It's a pretty intense thing, particularly when we have bad weather like we're having right now, where shipments are delayed and folks need their animals. So it's a lot of fun, and like I said, I always take the lessons of the field and try to put them into action at the business.
And are you doing anything else? Some commentating and stuff, or some media work? Somehow it said in Wikipedia you did that before. Have you done some?
Yes. Well, like every retired football player, you can't help but, somebody puts a microphone in your face, you're talking to.
Well, you're really, you're very good. So that's why I said, yeah, definitely.
I would say I've been at this about 3 years now, and I started off as a very, even as a kid, I was a quiet, shy person, and I saw the media opportunities as a chance to kind of get some personal growth going and, kind of grow up a little bit. I figured if I want to get into coaching, if I can talk better, I'd be a better coach. At my business, the better communicator I can be, the better business owner I can be, the better parent I can be. Yes. So I really embraced this opportunity to, become a little bit more of a media personality. And I've had a lot of fun with it and some success. This last year I called some games for ESPN3. I do a lot of games for Westwood One Radio, the national radio feeds for some college football and some NFL football. Lots of local Bronco stuff here in Denver, and I'm on the radio pretty much every day as well. So, it's a full, life, doing the shipping, doing the media stuff, and, dad, husband, and, dog owner as well.
It's interesting, Chad, when you said this, because I could tell you're well-trained. An easy interview. When you interview somebody that's always on, does interviews others, is in the media, it's like, oh, this is a cakewalk for us, and we could have a great conversation. I know it. And I was a shy kid too growing up, so it's very interesting how we kind of figure out our niches later in life and are more comfortable speaking in front of people. But now I've only done a few talks in front of people, but now because I've done so much radio and TV, I'm comfortable, and I say, hey, give me 3,000 people to talk to, and because I was a teacher as well, Chad, so it's like, bring it on. But it's amazing how we get our life experiences, for sure. So I remember always the reptiles with you with the Steelers. You had a lot of them. How many do you have now in your house?
Well, we had a fire in late 2011, and we lost the entire snake collection in the fire. We lost about 3,000 reptiles in the fire. There was also several hundred eggs still in the incubator to hatch that year. It was a crushing blow, really. For 20 years, I built that business. And once I retired in 2007, was really able to move the business forward. We were producing thousands of animals a year, shipping and selling animals all over the world. Like I said, having a tremendous amount of success. But that fire ended that. And as heartbreaking as it was to not rebuild the business, my partner and I decided that would be best and for us to really focus on some of these other things that we do. I talked about the shipping company. Yes. We also have some companies that sell products in the reptile world and design products for the reptile and the pet world. We've also got another company that's essentially like a reptile or an online reptile newspaper and a classified site. So the Reptile Report is that website, reptilereport.com, and also the Reptile Report Marketplace is our classified site for, buying, selling, trading reptiles. And we are going to continue to replicate these concepts and other animal hobbies as time goes on. So we were still involved in that reptile world, just no longer as breeders of reptiles, no longer physically, keeping thousands of reptiles at our facility anymore. Sad day, bad day, really kind of ended that phase of my life, unfortunately. But as football has taught me, phases of your life are going to end, and you got to be able to move forward. Yes. So while I can no longer play football, I can certainly be on television and radio talking about football or coaching football or, doing those kind of things. And while I no longer breed reptiles here myself, I can help others who breed reptiles get them safely to their customers. I can help them advertise their animals, talk about their animals, sell their animals, and all those things. So I'm still involved in the hobby, but just in a slightly different way.
Do you own any of your own, or you stopped at that too? Because that was what.
I've got a gecko that I've had for 20 years that actually is in a cage in my workout room. Have had this gecko for forever. And right now in my office, I've got one lizard. It's a kind of an oddball, kind of rare lizard from Cuba. They're called false chameleons. Kind of looks like a more traditional chameleon, but it's not actually a chameleon. So it's not something you would see in most pet stores. Kind of a more unusual animal. And then I've also got a 500-gallon fish tank here in my office that I'm looking at right now.
Oh, wow.
That I'm turning into a slice of the Amazon currently.
All right. Well, it's great talking to you, Chad. Best place we can find information on. You have a bunch of different websites. I call you an entrepreneur and a media guy. That's kind of me, but not to the scale of Chad Brown. But I hope to someday, entrepreneur-wise, be to the scale of Chad Brown. So I continue to work hard to build my tutoring and consulting business, and I do some social media and branding for companies. So it's awesome to talk to somebody that took life after football and is success off the field as well as he was successful on the field, Chad, for sure.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And where can we find best info for you? Is it to go?
Okay, so you can find me on Twitter at ChadBrown94. And again, you check out the Reptile Report at thereptilereport.com. Our classified site is the reptilereportmarketplace.com. And if you got some shipping needs, shipyourreptiles.com or shipyouraquatics.com.
You're a busy guy. You really are, Chad.
I am.
That's good. That's good. And that's because you're used to the training when you were in sports. I talked to one other person I think as busy as you. Bill Cartwright is a busy man and the former NBA star. He works as hard as you do. For sure. He's constantly doing tons of stuff. And that's good because you guys see you want to be successful in the entrepreneur field as much as you were on the football field or basketball court. So good talking.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And the same lessons apply. Hard work, getting after it, being harder working or better prepared than the next person. That applies in football or basketball or in this case, business.
Exactly. Good talking to you, Chad. Thanks again.
All right, take it easy. Right, thanks.
Bye-bye. You're listening to Total Celebrity Show, and we'll be back in just a moment. We're back to the Total Celebrity Show on the Total Education Network. Again, TotalTutor.net for more information. Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley. Facebook, LinkedIn, Neil Haley. Instagram, Total Tutor. Pinterest, Neil Haley. And Google Plus, Neil Haley. And when I think about a celebrity show, I got in this big kick of entering all these athletes. Then I started in a different role, and it seems like now it's more reality and different hit shows and people from the past. It's so interesting from promoting a guest on the E! Network to talking to somebody from Nickelodeon, now TLC. So I'm excited to welcome the program Jason and Cassia Hitch from TLC's 90 Day Fiancé. Jason and Cassia, thanks for calling. How are you?
Hey, hi. Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And it's kind of funny. I was doing some Google searching on both of you, investigative reporter that I am and journalist from education. And I guess the first announcement before we can get into why you did the show is that there are rumors out there, Jason, that you guys never did get married. So isn't that so? I don't know if you see those different things online.
You saw that we never got married?
Yeah. Haven't you been? So you got to go check out your. Yeah.
No way.
No, really. Yeah. I just wanted to say that. It's kind of a interesting part of the PR of things when you kind of search and dig up certain dirt that's on the internet. You didn't know that, Jason?
No, I didn't. But I guess I could see that. The conspiracy theories are out just about everybody, and everybody has an opinion on things. But the truth of it is that Cassie and I were actually married about a week before the time we were in Las Vegas.
It's kind of, but also, that they even have your wedding that then someone did uncover, and it has your license online too. So I just wanted to tell you that. So you guys can check those things out. So Jason, when you first decided to do the show, and I'm going to ask Cassia the same thing. When you first decided to do the show, were you hesitant about being on the show 90 Day Fiancé at all? Or what was your thought?
I was a little bit. The original plan was that Cassie and I were actually going to get married this year in the summer of 2015 and not in 2014. And the show allowed us to kind of fast forward our lives a little bit. But I was a little leery of what was going to happen. I had seen season 1. So when the show and I were talking about their interest in Cassie and myself, I played it like I wasn't interested, even though we were talking, and because I wanted to gauge their interest, because I didn't want to be screwed around for a month or two, saying, "Oh, we're interested, and we're not interested," and go back and forth. I didn't want to do that to Cassie either. You know, she had her school, she had a job, she had her family, she had a lot of things going on down there, and I didn't want to play with her emotions, and I wanted to make sure this was a right fit for both of us to get married on TV.
And what was your thought, Cassia? Was it first no when Jason told you about this being on the show? Or what was your
Yes. I told him no. I didn't want to do anything about it because I knew they would put a lot of drama on this. But we decided to do it because we wanted to educate people about the K-1 visa and all that people need to do. It's not like easy to come in here. You have to do a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, definitely. And
so, at the first I said, no way, I'm not doing it.
And Jason, because you're an entrepreneur, was it something that in a lot of your ways thinking about, hey, this is great PR, or this could be something also that is something to get us on the map for different opportunities, would you say? Or what are you thinking? What were your thoughts when, of doing
I told Cassia just pretty much from the beginning, and actually a few days ago that if we have a 1% chance of creating an environment, creating an opportunity, opening a door that maybe not necessarily was available if we were just, I don't know what you want to say, regular people.
Right.
Then let's take that chance. Let's gamble and create an environment where she and I can work together on something and basically not be away from each other.
Yeah, and that's true for sure. And that there's this one shot top opportunity. You see it in so many ways as looking at, creating a public brand, creating a brand. And Cassia, that's what you saw after he kind of talked you into saying, let's do this. Let's show what this is all about, right? And the challenges of this and also our lives. And you kind of letting them in, right, Cassia?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So that's pretty much. So, Jason, experience after the show, reflection, what would you say after it aired on TV and everything?
Well, what we've stated in prior interviews is kind of like what we're experiencing now. It's kind of like watching a football game and having the ability to have the remote control to rewind and watch, ourselves in slow motion, to watch us in instant replay. And then now we kind of go back and forth to say, hey, I can't believe they showed that, but they didn't show this, and they showed that. We understand that, the TLC has obligations. They wanted to make a good show, granted. But it is what it is now, and they showed about an hour of our relationship out of 126,000 minutes. And, we're able to be here in Spring Hill, Florida. I won the prize because I'm married to the love of my life. And we're excited about the new opportunities that she and I have in our relationship and opportunities that perhaps are going to grow outside of the show.
Now, Cassia, what was your reflection from the show? Well, how did you reflect from after watching it and everything?
Yeah, I learned of not judging people just for some minutes that I saw them on TV, because I know that's wrong. It doesn't happen to me. Like, I had a lot of people on Facebook, Twitter, just carry me and tell him about and say things about my hair or about the way I talk, you know. And I learned from this show how to respect people, because it's very hard, because a lot of people want to respect, but they don't respect each other. And that's it.
It's interesting. And a lot of times we see these reality television shows and say, these people aren't going to be very nice. Then you talk to them in person, you're like, wow, they're completely different, because you never know what that camera's going to film, Jason. You never know what you're going to say, and they're going to consider that's that person. Right, Jason?
Exactly. That's why we wanted to provide an environment on our public Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and our own website to actually show videos we did while they didn't film us last summer, to show people possibly the real us. And we've gained quite a few thousand fans that way, and we're pretty proud of what we did and what we're showing, because that's what it's all about.
It's definitely, Jason, that's what it's all about, and it's a fun thing for sure. Now, tell me specifically the projects you and Cassia have coming up. What's going on after the show, and how your lives changed, and where you're going from here.
Well, Cassia is an artist in her own right. She's got a graphic design, marketing background with a strong journalistic background. So we're letting her do what she does, which is to write and create. And of course, I have an entrepreneurial and sales and marketing background. So we're kind of merging our talents together. We've been fortunate to be here in Spring Hill, Florida, and I called on a friend. And he actually is one of the largest, or he is actually the largest snack and peanut company here in Florida. And Cassia and I have started a business called GiftingFun.com. It's going to carry a line of snacks and candies. And she does all the graphics. I do all the sales. And we're ready to go to market. We're going to be ready to go to market here in a week or two. And it will allow us to work together 24 hours a day.
Wow. That would be something I wish for my wife, because where my business is going and having those opportunities. So, Cassia, so that you're pretty excited about that, merging your talents together into an entrepreneurial venture.
Yeah, we can work together and have fun. I think this way is better than him or I trying to get a real job and then work all day long outside home and then get home tired. So I think Jason had a brilliant idea of us working and have fun together. This is all that matters.
And Jason, we got the gift. Thank you again, my wife and I. Thank you for sending the gift, and we definitely can't wait to try a bunch of the different things. So thank you for sending that. That was that's the first time in a long time. I remember when I went to the National Publicity Summit, somebody once sent me a gift for coming on my show, but I haven't had that much. Hint, hint to all the other top people. Please send me stuff. We can definitely utilize it. But Jason, so the excitement of where you're going and where you want to take this is exciting, and Florida compared to Illinois, and the world is your oyster, right? Putting these talents together, isn't it?
It definitely is, and right now we hope by the end of the summer we're also going to do exactly what we wanted to do from day one. We're going to finish our book, which will talk about our relationship from day one, and go into how this K1 process starts from beginning to end, and kind of bring it back down to the basics. We thought that the show would perhaps educate people a little bit more in the K1 process, but that was just touched on a little bit on the show. But now with this book and with our marketing, I hope that people can reach out to us at Jason and Cassia on our public page and jasonandcassia.com to come to us with any questions or concerns about their K1 experience, so we can all learn from each other. One case in point is Cassia and I didn't know that she could have applied for a Social Security number after 2 or 3 weeks that she first got here.
Wow.
And had we had known, it could have changed everything when it came to when we got our papers worked on, when she could have started working, and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But, sometimes you have to learn the hard way.
No, so Jason, the K-1 process, explain that to people before we have to let you go. That'd be interesting especially you said that TLC wasn't able to explain it the way you wanted it explained. That's why you're writing the book.
Well, the K-1 visa is you apply for the K-1 visa. You do all the pertinent paperwork. You send in their fee, and of course it allows the fiancé to come over, and you have 90 days to get married. And actually, you can get married any day of the week. You don't have to wait till the 90 days. And you have the first 14 days to get the Social Security number, and you have until the last 2 weeks to get the Social Security number. But if you don't get married, technically they violated their visa and they're supposed to go home. And it's up to the sponsor, which is myself, to then send